Hey, what is up guys? So today I'm going to talk about how we can use Excel spreadsheet to basically calculate your investment opportunities that you would like to do on, let's say, crowdfunding, stake, and all those other applications where you would like to diversify your investments. And you would also want to put your eggs on different baskets, right? Let's say you have a specific budget and you want to put those amounts or those savings into real estate properties, or we'll take the example of UAE based applications such as SmartCrowd or stake. Without even understanding how these things work, we don't necessarily know where we can put our money in before we could technically get an understanding of where we can get our investment from. We don't really know what to do with our assets and our savings when we don't have a measurable income source or measurable outcome so that we can forecast our year-end yield. So in today's video, I'm going to take an example of the UAE-based crowdfunding applications where you put money in UAE's tangible, booming real estate properties, and you'd like to have a share where these platforms gives you the opportunities to start investing from as low as 500 UAE dirhams. So in order for us to maximize on our savings and investments, it is always better to understand what the numbers exactly mean and what these numbers will get us at the end of the year. Just a disclaimer, I am not affiliated with Stake or SmartCrowd, and this video is just for information, just to teach you how to diversify your investment, how to analyze what is going to be your returns, and basically how to utilize numbers to make informed decisions. All right, so this video is not scripted, so I'm gonna be thinking on top of my head, and I'm just gonna try to make it as simple as possible, so just bear with me. For this video, we'll take an example where you have a set budget which you would like to invest in the UAE's real estate market. You have a variety of options on which properties to invest in. Every property will give you a transparent yield, monthly rent, and annualized returns. So our objective in this video would be to understand how to utilize the monthly yield and maximize our investment so that we can utilize spreadsheet to calculate the objective of maximizing our investment returns. As you can see from my screen, I have a table that I've created, and this is the exact table that gives you the right answer. For example, you will have a set number of properties. You can increase them, add them if you want, and you will have a monthly yield. A monthly yield is calculated in a way that, for example, if it is a property listing and stake, you will get the monthly rental transparency. If I put, just for the sake of example, all right, if I put 6,000 UAE dirhams as an investment of a principal amount, stake would then go and show me that my monthly rental income on that would be X amount. For this, I'm going to use 25 AED as a monthly rental income, and this could be variable depending on the property. Usually when you add the investment amount to your cart in stake, you would then get that detailed transparency on how much you would expect to have a monthly yield. Now, if you have questions on what kind of targets we need to set on yield, percentage increase, appraisal, you could put them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them as much as I can. But again, I am not affiliated with Stake or SmartCrowd, so I'm gonna give you my honest opinion on what kind of numbers will run to give you the kind of investment returns you're looking for. So I do have my monthly rental listed out in the column B, and you can take this as an example or a real life scenario based, because all the listings that you will find on the stake application will have rental income written that will give you an idea of what to expect as a yield. Now, I keep talking about monthly yield, but what does it actually mean? What is a yield, right? A yield basically means what is the return on your principal investment and what has it brought you, which is called the yield, right? Now, for example, when we look at property number 4, you can see that my monthly rental from this property is 25 dirhams when I put a 6,000 dirhams deposit. So to get the monthly yield percentage, what you're going to do is you're going to take the monthly revenue, which is your rental income, divided over your principal investment. That will give you the yield, and that is as a percentage format. All right. So what this basically means is that the monthly yield is actually going to be a fixed number for every property, because when you increment your investment amount, you can simply multiply the monthly yield percentage to your principal investment amount to get your monthly rental. For example, if I say that I want to invest, let's say 10,000 AED, and I just multiply it with the yield, I can simply get out my return on the monthly rental. So I'm going to get 41.7 AED monthly if I invest 10,000 AED instead of 6,000 AED, with a monthly yield of 0.417%. So what does this mean, and what can we do with this information, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to prepare this table so that you can calculate the investment by yourself, or you can simply download this attachment from the link in my bio. Just go to the link, it's www.mightycoach.net, and you can download it completely for free. And meanwhile, also check out my new website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you how I did this and how I use Excel solver to optimize and maximize my investment to get the annualized returns as high as possible. So let's say we have an example of 6 different properties, and this could be just a property, multiple properties, anything. This is just a scenario where I'm going to use them for calculating my returns. Now, remember, this monthly yield is not going to change regardless of your investment amount. The only thing that is going to change is the yield multiplied by your investment amount. That's going to show you your monthly revenue. So what I did here is I put my monthly rents here to get my yield, which means I now do not have to care about column C anymore because I got my yield percentage. I'm going to go as low as possible just to understand how we can find out the numbers that we're looking for. So remember, we have a few constraints here. We have a set budget that we would like to invest. In this example, I'm going to take 40,000 UAE dirhams as my set budget. I cannot exceed this budget, and I cannot invest a single dirham more than this. So this is going to be one of our constraints. This column E is the one that we would like to change or alter in order to get our maximized annual revenue, which is in the column G. Now, the monthly revenue is basically calculated as we multiply column E. Now, remember, the column E is something that we can either use trial and error, but the optimized way would be to use the Excel solver and let the computer do its job to give you the best solution and the best profit. Now, when you look at the monthly yield, it doesn't take our genius to find out that if I multiply my 40,000 budget with the highest yield number here, it's going to technically give me the highest revenue. Isn't that right? That is 100% true, but remember, it's an investment and we don't want to put all our eggs in the same basket. There are 2 reasons for that. One, the risk associated to one property is going to be the same, but if you diversify your risks on multiple investments, then you don't share that much of responsibility or ownership or liability that will be connected to that one property. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be that your selling value of that property will be different than other properties. For example, yes, your monthly yield for property number 4 is the highest for now, but the sale value, the property that will be sold after it is held for a while, would then be different on different properties. For example, when you look in property 1, it is possible that we could sell property number 1 with a 30% profit and property number 2 with a 50% profit, but property number 4's market value was so high in the beginning that it was sold only for 10% profit above the market price. Now, I have a very strong feeling that I've confused the majority of the audience here. So there are 2 things that we try to see when we are trying to invest in a property on a crowd-funded market or any real estate in general. Number 1 is, what is your monthly yield? That means for an investment amount, what am I going to get at the end of the month as a rental revenue? Number 2 would be, what would be the estimated property appraisal price or the property turnover price when I sell this property and then make a profit on this. Meaning, let's say the property's valuation in the purchase time was about 500,000 UAE dirhams, but then after a holding period of 24 months, the property was sold for 900,000 dirhams, which is very possible in the Dubai market. And if you have seen the history of exits that Stake has done, this is something very, very possible. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. I'm just telling you what I've seen in their public data. In most of the cases, what I try to do is when I invest in a property, yes, I do look at the monthly yield, but I also look at what I'm going to get or what is the potential of the property to appraise as a percentage at the end of the holding period. Now, the holding period could differ from property to property. It could be 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. It could also be 1 year or 2 year, depending. But what I've seen from the exits that Stake has done, usually it is about on an average 2 years. We have our properties laid out this way, and we know that if we invest a constant number, we get a certain rent from that property, and we divide that rent by the investment principal amount that we just randomly put, which was 6,000 in this case. We get our constant monthly yield. Now, we could do trial and error to find out how we can split our 40,000 dirhams set target budget and then calculate the rest of the tables, which is monthly revenue, annual revenue, proportion of the budget, and other criteria such as how much would I like to invest on one property as a maximum cap, and what is our minimum investment cap on each property. This could differ from person to person. For me, I like to set up my investment as a minimum of 83,000 and a maximum of 10,000 so that I can diversify my portfolio. Okay, so the main purpose of this video would be then to use Excel's intelligence software to get a diverse portfolio on my investment on all my properties and maximize my annual revenue, which is the yellow highlighted here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to go to Options. Then I'm going to find out Add-ins, and then go to Excel Add-ins and click on Go. What I want to do is I want to add that Solver add-in here and click on OK. For me, I've already installed it. I'm going to go under Data and click on Solver. This is what your solver is going to look like. Basically, the reason why you want to use an Excel solver is to meet an objective. That could be maximizing or minimizing something. For example, maximizing revenue, profit, minimizing cost, etc. So here in our case, we would like to set our objective in a way that we want our annual revenue sum, which is the highlighted here, should be maximized. So now I clicked on maximize. I could even minimize it if it is a cost or if it is something that I want to minimize in general, or I can even click on value of, and I can click and say I want to set up my objective to a set target. I want to make it, let's say 2000 AED per year or whatever the number you can think of. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. So we know now our objective is to maximize the annual revenue. Now, in order to meet this objective, we have to change some values, which would be our initial principal investment on each of these properties, which will then be reflected as our investment. Now, we do have certain constraints. For example, first constraint I'd like to add is that my total budget. Now, this cell which I clicked just now is a sum of all the investments on top of it. That should be less than or equal to, I can either write the constraint, which is 40,000, or I could simply click on a constant number outside of that cell, which will then be used as a boundary to confine my constraint. First constraint that I had is the budget constraint. And the second constraint that I'd like to add is that I want to say all my investments on each property should be capped at a maximum of 10,000 AED. And I'd like to also add another constraint that says my minimum investment should not be below 3,000 AED. So before adding that minimum cap, let's see what it does. I'm going to go ahead and click on the select solving method. I'm going to use a simplex linear programming, simplex LP method. And I'm going to click on solve. So what it does is it says solver did find a solution for us, and it says if you invest 10,000 AED on property number 1, 0 dirhams in property number 2, 0 in property number 3, and 10 in each, you will meet your target of 40,000 AED as your budget. Now let's go back to the solver and add another constraint that says my investment amount in each property should be greater than or equal to a minimum of 3,000 AED. This will just make sure that I put at least 3,000 in each property. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on solve. And you see how the numbers just now changed to maximize our profit to 1,972 dirhams. I would have to put 10,000 in the first property, 3,000 in the next, 3,000, and etc. and so on and so forth. And this is completely based on the monthly yield. Now remember, I could go ahead and remove all my constraints to say that I don't have any minimum investment required or I don't have any maximum investment required. The only constraint I have is a maximum budget I can allocate to my investment properties. And let's see how it changes. Now notice how column E will then be changed when I click on solve. There you go. Because my yield in property number 4 is the highest, it says technically if you put all your money in the highest yield, you will literally get the highest annual revenue. But remember, this is an investment. We don't want to associate all our investments with the risk of one property. So what we're going to do is go back to the solver, add a constraint that says my investment should not exceed 10,000 AED. Obviously, you can then go back and say, depending on your financial situation, you can go back and say, if you have a minimum or maximum cap on investment, you can add it there, and then you can go ahead and run your solver and see what solutions you get. And so now I can analyze my sheet and say, so if I put in these suggested numbers on my properties using the monthly yield that I can see as a transparent information on the website or on the platform, I can then understand what is going to be my monthly revenue and what is going to be my annual revenue. Just multiply it by 12, and the summation of it would be your total annual revenue after 12 months. Now you can see that my budget of 40,000 was 100% utilized on each property. So this is how you can analyze and use numbers to understand where you can put your investment in and how much these can give you as a return at the end of the month based on the numbers that are provided to you by the platform. And in my opinion, I really like how Stake provides you all this transparent numbers as monthly rental income, yearly appraisal, and etc. But again, obviously make sure that you do your due diligence and your research on what properties to invest in and which platform to choose, whether it could be SmartCrowd or Stake. But end of the day, it's your decision and your hard-earned investment money that you've saved for years and years. If you have any questions or doubts, always go and check with the customer service from the service provider. Again, I've put the link of this spreadsheet in the description completely for free. Feel free to go ahead and download it, and meanwhile also check out my website. It's MightyCoach.net. If you found value in this video, make sure to subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you on the next one.